Hello, and welcome to the Open Virtual Film Project. In this video, I'm going to be showing you some organizational tips to enhance your workflow in the Kit Bash project that we are working on. Alright, picking up from last time, we have our Unreal scene with our various different levels. I've added some dressing to the scene and done a few other changes. And you can see in my world outliner I've got about 90 objects, and there's no real rhyme or reason to how they're laid out. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to remedy that. The first remedy we have is something that we've already used in the LookDev lighting video, and it is folders. When we were dragging our skylight and our directional light into this lighting folder. So we're going to create a few folders. You can do this a few different ways, one of which is to make a selection. Click this Create New Folder containing the current actor selection. Call this Characters. And then I can hide that entire folder so I know it's already organized. Do the same thing with these objects here. Create a new folder, call this one Dressing. And then if I don't have a selection and I click the new folder, it'll just create an empty folder. And then I'm going to create a second folder for just my doors. So if I grab here, doors, and then I can drag and drop these folders into the architecture section. So now I have a doors folder. Similarly, I could drag and drop each of my doors, or a whole selection of doors, into the doors folder. Or, if I make a selection of my doors, luckily these are all named the same right now, I can right-click, move to the doors folder. And then from there I can make the rest of my selections and move things into different folders. So I'll join back up when I have the rest of the folders done. So now I've gone through, created all the folders I want. I can turn on and off as groups. If I want to select everything inside of a folder, I can right-click, select either immediate or all descendants. If I work on architecture here, if I select immediate children, it'll select everything that's not in this door section. If I select all descendants, it'll select everything under the folder. The next bit of organization I can do inside of the content browser is called parenting. If I wanted to be able to move this entire section of wall here, based off of how the floor moves, I could make a selection, drag and drop it on top of the floor, and now you'll see a very similar structure to how parenting works in Blender or grouping works in Maya. So now if I grab the floor, notice how I don't have anything else selected. I can shift it around and it shifts the rest of the walls and ceiling around. I could do the same thing with each of these hutch settings, where I could parent the mirror to the sideboard cover, and then when I move the sideboard cover down the wall, the mirror follows. And parenting is a tool we'll use quite a bit as we move on later in the project. A note is that you cannot parent between folders, and you cannot parent between sublevels. So if I had something in the Kit Bash layer, and I wanted to parent it to the LookDev layer, if I come into this dressing, grab this drawers B, you'll see this directional light, skylight, and post-process volume are grayed out. It's because the drawers are in the Kit Bash level, and the lighting objects here are in the LookDev level. Speaking of levels, we can also use them as an organizational schema. So I'm going to create a new level for my dressing. To do that, there's a bunch of different ways. I can use the OVFP plugin dynamic set list, the right-click scripted actions, make new sublevel, or in this case, I'm going to go up to this virtual production OVFP section, make a new sublevel. We're going to call this dressing. I'm going to add a 0, 1 because I'm going to do multiple options of dressing in this hallway as time goes on. It is usually a good idea to add a number to the end of a sublevel like this, because you will invariably create multiple versions. So I've got a sublevel, dressing 0, 1, hit make. You see I've got this dressing 0, 1 sublevel now. When I make it, it automatically jumps to it. However, there is nothing in this sublevel right now. I can tell that by going to this View Options, only in current level, and this shows me only the things that are in the actively selected sublevel. So I want all of my dressing in that new sublevel. I'm going to select all of the dressing that I want to move over, right-click Tutorial Dressing version 1, and move selected actors to level. Now when I double-click into the dressing 01 sublevel, you see it's got all of my dressing objects, my drawers and my mirrors, and my carpet. and I go back to kit bash, and it no longer has that dressing folder. If you wanted to maintain the integrity of this dressing sublevel without worrying about editing it, I could lock it, and now I cannot select any of the objects in this sublevel. I can still select things in other sublevels, but at that point I would not be able to right-click this, move selected actors to level. I would have to unlock it first and then move them. Another way to do this is in the sublevel you want to move from. Make your selection, Control X, come into your new sublevel, Control V, and that'll move it to the new sublevel as well. I'm going to undo that because that organization is not what I want. Now I'm going to make a couple of new sublevels really quickly, so I'm going to do that using the Dynamic Set List tool under the OVFP plugin. So in the tool Dynamic Set List New Sublevel, come into, these are going to be standard sublevels. I'm going to call one of them Doors Open, hit Create, and the other one Doors Closed, hit Create. Alright, to do this work, I want to make a couple of selections. First off, I want to select all of the characters and all of the doors, and move these to Doors Open sublevel. And then I'm going to deselect all of my characters and copy all of my doors with Control C. Come into the Doors Closed sublevel and paste with Control V. So now I have two copies of the doors, and I'm going to go through, make a selection of all of the doors that have been opened, and put them back into their closed state. For that, I could go through each of them and rotate them individually, or since I know they're all the exact same, I can batch edit them using the transform tool. In the rotation field here, see I have multiple values in the Z. If I put that to 0, all of the doors are closed. It's also a great way if I needed to adjust all of their heights all at the same time, and I wanted to do it numerically. I have this Z value here, which I could change. Now in my sublevels, I turned off the doors open for a second so you could see what I'm doing. I have this doors closed sublevel and this doors open sublevel. If I turn the doors closed off and the doors open on, I've got one look of my scene with the doors open and my characters moving across. I've got another look of my scene with the doors closed, and I can step between the two of them. For more information on how to turn levels on and off quickly, check out the Level States tool in the Tools playlist linked in the description. Similarly to the World Outliner, in the Levels browser, we also have the option to create folders. So I could create a kit bash environment here, and a subfolder for doors. For the folders, I would use whatever organizational scheme my project has used, and if they don't have one, whatever is convenient for me to be working on. The last organizational tool we're going to be talking about today is layers. So I've talked a lot about how Unreal levels are more like layers in a lot of other programs, where you can turn on and off groups of objects. However, inside of Unreal, there is another organizational tool called layers. To use them, I go up into Window, Layers. Layers are more like turning on tagged objects inside of Unreal. So if I grab a selection of my dressers, I can right-click, add selected actors to new layer, and turn them on and off. If I were to make the same selection and include all of my furniture in there, I could also drag and drop into the Layers browser to create a new layer. I'm going to name this one Furniture. And then I can turn these layers on and off. And then from there, with the right-click menu, I can remove selected actors from layers, delete layers, rename, select the actors that are in the layer, append my actors to my current selection. So if I have something selected, it'll select everything else in that, in addition to what I already had selected. Deselect the actors that are in the layer, and make all layers visible. One shortcoming of how the layer system works inside of Unreal is that if an object, say the sideboard, is in multiple layers, and I turn off one of them, you'll see it does not turn off the dresser. You only have the option where if an object is in any layer that is on, it is visible. You don't have an option for if an object is in a layer, I want it to override the visibility when it's off. It would be very useful for Unreal to add the function where I could have exclusive control over the dressers using this dressers layer, and if I turn it off, it would turn it off in all of the layers, no matter what is on or off. However, that functionality does not yet exist. So that is folders, levels, and layers for your organizational uses. In my personal workflow, I tend to use folders and levels significantly more than layers, and only use layers for very specific circumstances. A potential use case for layers, in this instance, would be if I had multiple VFX sublevels or multiple lighting sublevels, and I wanted the option to be able to turn off just the sprinklers in any VFX sublevel, or I wanted to be able to turn off the sconces in all of my lighting levels. If I set that up, I could have a layer called sconces, and when it is on, every lighting sublevel that I turn on has the sconces on, and when it is off, every lighting sublevel I turn on will have the sconces off. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching.